All right, all right, all right. What's happening? What's happening? How we doing today, fam? Let me get this all ready to roll. Whoa, what's going on here? All right, got that going. Boom. Got the mic. Let me see who's with me here today. Got the boy Michael Machiavelli, the one and only. All right. Getting a couple things here set up so y'all will see. Y'all will have the screen and everything. Guys, go ahead at this point and get anyone you trade with, trading buddies, get the people locked in. Let's see what we can do today. Man, we got NASDAQ getting all-time highs. Just think back like 10, 11 weeks ago. 10, 11 weeks ago, this thing had dumped. They were panicking, cause of recession. And just like that, market bounces per usual. Clockwork, baby, clockwork. All right. Got a couple things here set in stone. Where is this another thing? All right, that's all gravy. Let me get the chat up and running. All right, what's up, Puccini? We got Sen, Brandon, hello, Patrick, Damien, Amy, Edwin, what's up, Edwin? Welcome to the syndicate as well. Newest member, going crazy. We got Daniel Bernal, Gabriel Omar. What's up, Greg? How are you, man? Hump day. Yeah, I was waiting for that one. All right, cool, guys. I'm just going to go ahead and get a couple of things here lined up. Get my screen on. Okay, let's see. Where is this? All right. You guys now should have. Why does it do that? Oh, I see. All right. Sweet. All right, you guys should be looking at Dow right there now. How we thinking about these markets? Yesterday we had a 1 hour exit on NAS, NQ, and then YM as well had a manual exit, trying to play out of this zone here. Once we had this spike down, the game had changed. So a couple key levels that I'm waiting on here with Dow. Maybe we trade this, depends on what Nasdaq's looking like. So I'll dive into that all here in a second. Let me just go ahead and and share this stream here, and then we're good to go. All right. And before we get started, in the chat, let's practice some gratitude, man. I'm grateful that I woke up. These legs are working. Breathing. Have the discernment to make good decisions. Choose the long term over the short term. So I'm grateful, man. Grateful for all of you, honestly. Just like plugging in here with me. I'm glad that we have this exchange. Just, everyone here learning from each other, positioning themselves to get better, to build a better life for themselves. So it's honestly pretty dope. All right, just posted, and we are live. Yo, shout out to the boy Brandon. Also, got some fat payouts yesterday. We love to see it. We love to see it. If you didn't, go show some love in the school community. I know we have this phrase from years and years ago, and we like to say that if you see your neighbor get his mail, then guess what? The mailman's coming to you next. So celebrate it. Shout out the boy. Just got the payouts. So remember, getting funded is one thing. Getting consistent payouts, that's the sweet spot. So let's focus on the process. Let's focus on discipline and make sure that all of that comes together. So we're just making the right decisions, right? Long term. We're here to have a good time, but for a long time. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get this started. Now, what I'm looking for, and obviously, guys, if you're kind of newer to the channel, I've been trading for just about 10 years now. And I've been actually trading live since December 2017. So in front of, tons of people. And throughout these years, one of the biggest things that I think the biggest benefit of not just trading together, which we're not really, like everyone's independently making their decisions, but I like the fact that you can have trade management. Like you can watch the development of how things are done, how you manage ideas when they're live, how you manage your thoughts, your processes, what you put into your frame of mind. So going through all that is really important. For me, I'm a big indices trader. We will trade, majors. We will trade, energy, metals, just crypto when it makes sense. We'll look at some stocks charts when it makes sense. So I outside of indices, when the market is hot in different asset classes, I like to ride that volatility. So we'll dive into that as well. But let's see. In terms of gratitude, I see grateful to trade another morning. Absolutely, Luis. What's up, PG? PG, what's up, Corey? Grateful for the air in lungs and to be trading from home today for improved clarity, to be able to level up one day at a time for my family. Love that, man. Yep. Awesome. What's up, Yaslin? Okay, cool. So right now, there were some key things. Yesterday, I wanted to get us into buys, despite us looking to short when we were up here. I wanted to get us into buys here off of this zone. You guys saw me mark that up yesterday. But, man, I like part of my trading system is waiting for the lagging setup. And to me, NASDAQ had not worked its way down yet. It hadn't worked its way to clear these London session lows. And we just didn't get down there. Like, we just didn't see NQ break those lows. And really, that's what I wanted. So didn't pull the trigger on Dow, so we saw the market drop down here after New York open. But, that was really the case. So we see it sweep down here a little bit after that news event. And NQ held up. So in reality, I guess the other option was just to go back to yesterday's price action to just understand everything much better. I guess the setup here with NQ, once Dow cracked the low, but NQ was giving us higher lows here, that was divergence. So I guess we could have argued that could have been the trade. Now, on top of that, though, the reason I also didn't love this idea was just because when we did get above price action here, we were only up here for like 10 minutes. So it wasn't the most confirmation of demand. So the fact that this trade didn't end up happening, I would say I would be lying if I said it wasn't a little disappointing, because I talked about a potential reaccumulation and going further. But if the system isn't showing up, or if the confirmations aren't there, then they're just not there, and we have no business forcing anything here. So, I mean, what do you think? Is that a struggle you guys have every once in a while, where you're like, man, like, I missed another entry? And I feel like that's a common thing. But at the end of the day, if you're constantly going back and forth on how you allow yourself to trade, then it's just going to be trouble all the time. You're never going to really know what kind of trader you are in the first place. So that's something that I kind of want you guys to think about as you're going through things today. But to give us the overarching perspective here, in regards to, was it NASDAQ all-time highs or was it Dow all-time highs? So depending on how you're looking at things, based on contracts here, we're chilling around this level. Now, if you looked at just like the continuous here, I think that's what I was looking at. Then we saw, price get above ATH and Q. But when you account for the contracts rolling over and looking at present time, then you're actually seeing a trade into this zone, which this is more in my opinion, this is just more precise price action. So let's go look at where we're at here, and if we're going to get something more effective here. So that's going to be useless to us here. One second, guys. Yeah. One second here. All right. Interesting. There's not going to be enough data on the current contract because there's just no liquidity over there. So what I think matters more, it's already at all-time highs. It just depends on how you're looking at the market. So if you're looking at NASDAQ, let's say, for example, you're looking at NASDAQ, like just CFDs, right? We're looking at all-time highs, right? Now, if you're looking at with over new contracts, obviously you're not going to see the same thing. So regardless, when we're looking at the market trading right now, understanding the ranges that we're in, I think you can make a lot of quality decisions when trading today's price action. So what you don't want to do is just rush to trade to think, okay, I'm going to catch the top and just take positions because you're at all-time highs. When you're in price discovery, there's a really good chance that the market isn't going to it's not going to drop just because you want it to. Mike, this market is crazy. So what we need to see here is just concrete evidence. Right now, we're just trending to the upside. And if you're looking at how the market's moved throughout the last couple sessions, as always, you can pinpoint where you have some key levels. So you have Asian session lows right here. And we can highlight this just by adding a little tag there. Some people like to use specific like watermarks that color like the entire Asian session. For me, it's a little too noisy, so I decide not to. And then from here, then we look at kind of London session lows, which we'll have right there. So here you have London session lows right there. And then you see a nice little dip, one more dip right into this level before the market rallied. So seeing this here and considering how bullish we're moving, we might get a nice little bounce out of this zone. So here, just to give you guys a little detail, you see some nice clean movement. A little push to the downside. Get below into this range. Sell or buy out of this sell-off. And the market rallies. So might have some trading over here. And yes, we are trading at extremely high levels. So we want to go ahead and just be mindful of how we work our way over here. But at this point now, we've been trading above this price for just about 2 hours. So we're about 5 minutes out from New York open. So you have a bit more to look at now in regards to divergence. What we're seeing, Toby said, been trading for almost 8 years now. The last 3 to 4 months, it's hard to find some good entries, or is it just me? I'd say about the last month or 4 to 6 weeks, I've had less entries of my mitigation model, but I've had a lot more entries on my shakeout model. So what I'm saying is, I think the principles are still very much aligned. It's just reading the context through a different method. So, for example, the constant thing is we're getting liquidity captures, like solid liquidity captures, and then the market induces sellers. So let's say in a buying scenario, we're getting good liquidity captures, and then the market basically shows signs of very little demand. And then afterwards, we get a very quick response. So it kind of lures in sellers one more time, and then it rips. So this has happened, like, for example, for NASDAQ, we actually pinned this month's low. Where is this thing? A couple times. So we had the entry here and here. The issue was holding. But it was for the same principle. So, for example, this right here, which was a signature setup for the buy. I wasn't live for this one, unfortunately, but we had the liquidity sweep there. The market then lures in. It plays out of the support. So, functions as resistance. This naturally lures in sellers. So once this induces sellers again with the retail break and retest, this was my entry for a buy. And then same thing happened. Or I think it was with Dow before as well. So I feel like it's responding to reading how money is flowing. That has helped at least. Otherwise, yes, definitely would be trading less, would just have less setups. So I do agree that I think the market is just giving different types of liquidity examples and how you respond to it. Okay, but with that being said, right now we're seeing liquidity build up here. So retail sellers definitely stacking entries over here. And today I think is going to be one of those examples. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to split screen here. There's a lot more manipulation. Yeah, for me, I think that's a good thing. What's up, PJ? What's up, Block? We got the OB in the house. So today, I feel like because of how we're building liquidity, so for example, there's kind of two scenarios. With Dow either, I think, gives us a setup where we sweep liquidity here, This looks like it already rejected this candle. So either we sweep this high or this high, and then we could see the shakeout setup. So we could see liquidity sweep. We get very little demand, and then we get a trade like this maybe, and then we just target this liquidity. How deep this goes, that's going to be the key thing. Otherwise, with NQ here, we'll see if the market is going to push down to these levels and we get a position. So something like this could happen, or vice versa. Depending on how price action unfolds, we may see the other way around, where the market clears liquidity, plays into, let's say, like something like this. This was like, yesterday's just a little dip. Maybe we clear lows, and then the market doesn't give us signs of demand, and then we get the market to rally like this. So these are kind of like the two options that I can see happening at the moment. Would be both of these examples. If this is too confusing, I can just kind of split this up. So, well, let me know if you guys understand this. But we should be seeing volatility here. What's up, David? Coming in now. So let's see how the market wants to show us. In the meantime, also make sure you have all your accounts set up, everything here in front of you. So market opens up trading to the downside on Dow. And we're seeing NAS spike up. So here we got a little push down on NQ. Actually creates more liquidity with this move here. And then it's just still ripping. And oh my God, is it ripping. So it said, all right, pump it. Pump it. And Dow's like, is there anybody, are we running? We doing anything yet? Is this thing on? The fish strategy. So we're seeing kind of a divergence right now. NASDAQ leading the way to the upside, definitely more bullish perspective, while Dow looks like it's pushing to the downside. So I wonder if we get a liquidity capture and then the market kind of loses that momentum to trade higher. When the market moves in opposite directions, so when we see actually a complete shift in momentum, that's when Nas here just came through, just bulldozed her way in like Kramer. So right now, let's see if we clear this lower. But when NQ and Dow are not trading in the same direction, when they're just moving opposites from one another, you can kind of approach these independently. So for example, here, we're starting to see Dow sweep to low, now wanting to push higher. So we got that liquidity capture here. Look at that. So good moves to the upside. There you go. People do want to own the most expensive contract ever. What I want to see now is, how is the market going to respond to something like this? Because NQ is moving with just way more velocity right now. Dow a little bit more neutral, a little bit more settled. So this sweep of liquidity, the market's holding this down. Dow is holding this down actually pretty well. And so when we see something like this, here's where we can kind of consider, because look at how price action is not holding up really well. The buys are starting to make some sense here. we are in really volatile times. So right now, basically, I'm on another screen. I'm just figuring out what my contract size would be if I'm going to take a position here. And because we're kind of going back and forth, I'm not sold on Dow quite yet. We're pushing higher with Nas while Dow is still working its way. It's like still kind of wanting to go lower. I feel like maybe we clear this as well. Meanwhile, we're seeing a whole bunch of just back and forth here. So I don't have the most clarity with a move like we're seeing right now. The market's leaving liquidity. NASDAQ goes higher. Dow kind of goes lower. NASDAQ goes lower. Dow kind of goes higher. So they're both kind of ranging, chopping. It doesn't seem like the market wants to go lower here. So we are seeing very little demand. And same thing here with NQ. But what I want to see is, does NQ make the same thing? Okay, here we go. So there's micro contracts and NQ here were different. Okay, that threw me off. Man, that gets annoying. I'm not going to lie. The difference between the two. Okay, so what are we noticing? We're seeing that demand is very much not really here. So we see the sweep. The market did squeeze here a little bit, which is fine. There were options to take the buys here. And I think there still could be opportunity to take buys there as well. Let's just let the market give us a bit more context and see if we can kind of squeeze our way in here. With that being said, give me 1 second here, guys. I gotta log in. I'm not logged in on this one for some reason. Connection warning. All right. Here we go. All right. So, all right, back to Dow here. At how these are moving, one of the big things that I would recommend you keep your eye on here is not just the micro contract, but just the standard, like the mini. You're going to have a lot more precision here. It's going to be a much more accurate market. So, for example, here, despite the market coming up and trading only for a few minutes, it comes back down, but it does mitigate down to here. Whereas when we were looking at the micro contracts, it looked definitely not the same. Like this was a very different chart. So we already saw our first wave, Dow pushing lower. It's struggling to get above the highs. So despite it clearing the lows, it's really struggling to get above there. Whereas bullish time frame, bullish structure with NQ versus Dow. Now the question is going to be, at these levels, or are we starting to see the formation of a distribution? We don't know yet. So let's let the market prove itself. Because it's not about just qualifying an entry, it's also about disqualifying an entry. So right now, for example, NQ trades higher, Dow not so much. So I'm okay with seeing the market maybe go lower so that we could get more information, more clarity. We're seeing tons of liquidity here, so at some point we will more than likely come for this. But this may want to clear, for example, some lows. Maybe we want to trade into this range right over there. And in the meantime, while Dow is absolutely melting, but while it's coming down up here. So NASDAQ structure is still pretty bullish. So two things can happen here. Price holding this, you have either NQ can give a drop. So we could see NQ come back down, trade into like this imbalance that we have here. So you might see this come down, and that's what pushes Dow even further. So this could be, and really the actual trade is, you see the sell-off here, and then you see the continuation. So this is the sell-off, trading in the imbalance. And what's going to be interesting is if we see the market go down like this and Dow follows suit, we'll have more clarity. But look at how they're trading in opposing directions. NQ goes up, Dow goes down. So like I said, when you have a market where they're moving in opposing directions like this, they usually end up wanting to meet somewhere in the middle. So for today, if we right now that it's clearing this liquidity, see that? Some people are going to want to trade it right over here, which is, I understand it. We had a sell off here, and then the market could bounce. So I think that is like, for me, I don't usually just enter this. I just use it as like kind of a awareness. Thanks, Ed. And then if we lose demand, we trade back over here, then we could take something like this. And I'm okay with just independently viewing or interpreting Dow, because clearly NASDAQ and Dow don't have correlation right now. So market's starting to play out of here. That's the first sign. So we're already in a bullish structure in general. We're seeing the market lose demand. So it's coming up now. The market can either reject somewhere over here, I don't know, maybe a little bit higher. So let's see if we get that. We want to see price trade higher so that we get confirmation that Dow doesn't want to trade this low yet, that it wants to keep the vibes going. And if that is the case, all right, let's see. So we got to wait it out. Look at that. Look at this. To a T. That's wild. Is it though? So, all right, now we're seeing demand, right? We saw price go below, losing momentum. So this is, now we're starting to see like the original idea unfold. Okay. This is good. I mean, almost predicting step by step from here to here. Now let's see where this is going to want to reject from. So literally had it there. Now we're going to want to see whether it's going to hold that or not, and then take a play from here. So little demand when we get down, comes right back up. We do want to see more. We want to have this trade a little higher, and we want it to trade a bit consistently. So if this just can, let's say, withstand price action anywhere really in here for 5, 10 minutes or longer, we can see that, okay, this is a price not down here. Then we can look to take a position on the way back. So something around here looks like we slip down, come back up, slip down again. We're trading in here. If you feel like, all right, nope, this is just little demand and you want to pull the trigger, right, playing out of this demand, then I totally get it. Because you saw it slip down, came right back up. Now we're seeing it come back to this level right away. So I prefer, instead of kind of trading it super quickly, like, oh, it went down, back up, I prefer waiting for a bit more confirmations. Sometimes that leads to just missing the trade because it just doesn't trade like that for as long as I would have wanted it to. But in this case, there's logic to it, and the fact that we're seeing NQ and Dow just trading at different capacities, it just makes this a more valuable opportunity. So let's see how this continues, because there's also the case that it could go lower, right? So we don't want to just marry our bias and assume that there's no way that we could possibly have this wrong, because what we are seeing is that below, let's say 43,360, yeah, down here it's not giving us too much. I would rather have it go higher again, trade a bit longer, and then if we get that pullback, okay, cool, we pulled the trigger with more confirmation that there's very little demand here. Because now what I'm seeing is we are trading at this level for a relatively extended period of time. Like, these 4 or 5 minutes is is like, it's still trading here. So it's just not like, oh, we just crashed, came back up, cool, we're all good. It's like, we're kind of stalling out over here. So let's see. What it has been doing, basically, it's been respecting this resistance and trading in this manner. So respecting all of this, trading, dropping. So the fact that this didn't immediately melt down, this is luring in sellers because it's trading down over here. This support is functioning as resistance. Starting to break up into a little bit higher. Cool. All right. Fantastic. So now if we do, okay, look at how, if we push in here one more time, this is just bringing in more sellers into this position. Look at how NQ is kind of pulling back down to this level too. With NQ rebalancing, I think that's the sign for a Dow buy as well, and having this rip. This clearing lows. So right now, this is break and retest sellers are building up in here. We're seeing NQ clear a lot of this here. Clear those lows. Pushing into here. Maybe we go down one more time. A little bit lower. And that should be the green light for Dow. I'm going to place my stop below here as well. So building up liquidity here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to... we see one little spike down. I'm going to pull the trigger on the buy. I just want to see NQ get below this, push down, and then make the move. All right, so I'm in here. And then in case we get another spike down, then I do have a sell stop in play. But I am going to give myself some points in case we make another low and then make the move. And then basically my perspective on this idea, this might go a little bit lower actually. My perspective on this idea is that we're seeing the market lure in. And actually, I thought it was going to get triggered in lower, but it didn't for whatever reason. Is that this is luring in sellers with the break and retest, and then we can see the market go. So this is basically the idea. Let me zoom out real quick so I can place the stop exactly where I wanted it to be. This stop I wanted to be below this low right there. Below, see how we have structure right over there? So in case it wants to pull at that, then it can make the move. So see, look at this. We actually pull, or I pulled the trigger on this a little too early. So the market here, instead of, hold on one second. Instead of this being the liquidity capture and the demand, didn't have enough demand apparently. Unfortunate. All right. Guess that's an L on the shakeout for me. Yeah, it didn't hold. So this is, looks like NQ wanted to target lower, clearing some of these lows. Played into here. That obviously pushed down Dow some more. So this example here, it looks like the shakeout maybe what, at least how I was seeing it. I guess when it cleared liquidity here and then we saw the move, that was the liquidity capture, the market absorbing those orders and then moving it higher. And then this here, we didn't get the move up because we already had seen it happen here. So I would say that was a technical error on my end for sure. Because at the end of the day, this was the main source of liquidity. And then we did see this happen right there. So once we saw this come back down, that was part of the issue. All right, 1 second here. Okay, so with all that being said, now what we can see is when we are considering, for example, setups where we're capturing liquidity and then making a move, we want to make sure that we're targeting some key areas where that we actually could get the reversal. So, for example, here we see that we see quite the range in this zone. So NASDAQ could want to clear liquidity here before we see any type of movement. Or, depending on how this plays out, we're either going to see the shift in momentum. So, for example, we had higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, lower lows. But these lower lows, for me, this is not a lower low unless there's demand. And right now, we have no demand. This came down, was like, psych. Nope. So this clears out orders and now decides to trade higher. So we just might see the market play out of this zone. If it comes back at some point, we can get the market trading out of here and rallying because of the little demand. So let's see. And then you can see, for example, Dow still bearish, relatively bearish, making lower lows and lower highs on these 1 minute dips. Yeah, so to take because, you know, with a trade like the one that we just had, I would say to take more understanding of this trade. This is why I don't know why. Like, I think maybe I was just too zoomed in, but when we saw the market sweep liquidity come back to break and retest here, and then it dropped, and then we see this. You see how this is a huge order. 45 points in just a minute. So when we saw this happen like that, this was the shakeout. This was the super liquidity, lures in more sellers, and then buy orders can flood and pump the market up. So that was the move. And then since we obviously, I didn't take this initial one because price action was just really weird with NQ. We also saw the mitigation of this order there as well. And so that's when we went for when I went for this trade here, as it was trading over here and the market was getting back into this level. There really wasn't that much volume that could take the market higher, since that liquidity was already, that exchange of money after it swept this liquidity here, it had already gone down. So right now we can see it's very clear. There's very little demand below 42,000 or 22,495. We're seeing the market run up again. Fantastic. So if we get pullbacks, especially if we can just kind of keep trading up here, if we get pullbacks back into this level, then I like buy positions out of this. Yeah, look how we're trading here now. Dow now swept. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Look at how Dow's picking up momentum now. And Q is starting to chill. Starting to lose steam up here. So, depending on how this unfolds, let's see where we get to, because look at all of this liquidity here. This is definitely a sign that at some point we're going to want to clear these highs, maybe even the rest of these, and play more into this imbalance. The question is going to be, what's shifting momentum? Because right now, look at Dow is starting to take over, is starting to really pick up on the bullish momentum. Look at how we're trading above here. Starting to get above this high, while NQ is still below. So let's see how this evolves. Because we might be looking for buys, whether it's with Dow or whether it's with NQ here. It'll just kind of depend on how we work our way back down, what that looks like. That's it. Honestly, just this entire zone looks solid. Look at how NQ is starting to diverge. It filled imbalance here, and now it's starting to work its way down, while Dow is still trading right here. This is what we call divergence, especially now that the market's kind of matured after New York Open. We're trading higher. this is where we could start to see potentially a flip of momentum, and we might see NQ actually go below these levels and trade into some more of this imbalance. So we'll just see how this is just obviously running different theories and interpreting the information as it rolls through. But look, yeah, just look at how price is starting to drop here, and Dow is just chilling. So here's where we see the sweep. Here's where we see that last push. So more than likely, the buy can play out from like over here. Because now, we really do see a full sweep play into this zone. Right there. Let's see if we get how much demand we keep getting, and then what an NQ looks like. All right, go to the chat here. You're skipping in and out. Oh, really? Oh, you're right. Why does this suck? All right, give me a sec. Yeah, not really sure. Oh, it's all good? Okay. Hey, Mike, did USD already mitigate and never went into my zone in euros? He's actually heading towards the zone of interest. I can take a look at it. So the way in which the markets are moving today, where Dow and Nasdaq are just kind of flip-flopping on price action, where like, okay, one is more bullish than the other one's more bullish, and then they're kind of going back and forth and back and forth. This is usually my least favorite trading conditions. And what I usually end up doing, eventually they kind of end up evening out and then just start trading similarly. So like they actually are kind of doing so right now, where they go up together and they kind of come down together and they go up together. When we have it like this, when it's like really on the same page, this is where I get more, we get more clarity. So look at how NQ is dropping down faster. I'm going to avoid trading. I'm going to avoid trading that. Now, it doesn't matter if MYM spiked up because we're not trading MYM, right? Or we're not, MYM, it just has less liquidity. So what we're going to be looking to trade is not MYM, but let's see here. We are going to trade the MYM contract, but YM is going to be more precise. So at this point, whether it's going to be you're trading NQs at the zone, and then we're seeing Dow at this level. So I'm liking Dow considering it has more liquidity to take, and it's just holding up a bit better. NQ is dropping a bit more aggressively. So I like Dow positions around these levels. So, yeah. And I think, I know the other day Greg was saying about how he wants to maybe split risk and take both. Take one on Nas and take the other on Dow. So I like the position on Dow. It looks like it's holding up a bit better. I want to see if we can kind of make another push into the zone because it kind of just tapped in here. So I want to see if we can get a little bit lower. I might have just missed this entry. So let's see what we can get here. Just tapped into the structure, but here's where we kind of see the dip down. So yeah, no, I think this might be wanting to leave. Oh, this is so sad. If it dips without us, look at how Dow is holding much better structure relative to Nasdaq now. Oh, Nasdaq just ate that up. Sheesh. Wow. That was solid. Yeah, obviously you guys are seeing I'm not in this. Not in this quite yet. Either way, I like the idea. We're getting more and more confirmation. Look at how we're trading out of here. If we can get another dip down, then I'm willing to take a position for a long because I do like the long and I do think we can go into liquidity. So let's see if that's going to be the case. Wow. This was so this was the setup. That was literally the buy. So look at the difference, right? Don't get distracted with how MYM just flew up there. That doesn't really exist. This is really like the minis is where the money's really happening. The money's moving. So have more focus, more attention on there. Let's see. Right now it's building up even more. It's coming back down again. And now look at this. What's interesting is now Dow is coming down harder and Nasdaq is actually dropping a little bit slower into the zone. Price action is starting to flip here. So NQ might be, one of these positions are looking relatively decent. So market actually just gave another opportunity and I still slept on it. Rip. Let's see. So what I'm gonna do right now is I like my trade here. I'm gonna take the position, and of course it wouldn't trigger me in down here. All right. Let's see if we can go and target this liquidity up here. From here now we are seeing the signs of that demand. And then let's see if we can go clear liquidity. Because the more precise chart is this one. This is actually the more precise chart that we're getting. So you see, we definitely have a whole bunch of liquidity here to target. So the first target should be somewhere over here. And then that would give us something like this. So with this setup here, you have a risk, the risk reward, which it should have been down here, but it is what it is. And then I have my stop over there. This we can let rip through and then go into the zone for a 2R. And then my stop actually goes to here. So as of now, we're starting to get some good push, some good momentum. Starting to see both of these kind of sustain these levels relatively well. We can see there's little demand when the market works its way down. Same thing here. This was the example that we were looking for. So when we were looking at the market lose momentum, here we see that there's still more examples of little demand. When the market came up, rejects briefly, comes back up briefly. All of price down here is just symbols of very little demand. So despite the market breaking through, we're getting clear signs that the market can hold up here. And we know we made the right decision on which asset to trade, because look at where NASDAQ is now, trading way down here, and we're still seeing Dow trade up here. So let's see how these hold up. Look at this. NQ. Really interesting. I wonder. Because now we're just like, we're seeing actually a little bit, in my opinion, a little too much going on down here. And I wonder, yeah, exactly. I wonder if we're going to break, if we're going to want to break kind of below all of this for NQ and what that does for Dow. Where does that take these positions? Because we might just see NQ do one more push below. Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at. We might see NASDAQ want to clear these lows one more time before all of this can go and rip. So there we have that move. NQ clears it. We talked about these lows there. Now do we see everything get back on track to the upside, or is there just not enough? So look at this. Now we're seeing NQ get right back up to here. I actually kind of expected Dow to push up now that we had NQ kind of eat up these orders. So let's see if that's going to be the case. So if you guys are noticing, I'm going back and forth between YM and MYM, and that's just because YM here, it gives you the most precise data, considering that there's just more monies moving within YM than MYM. The bigger players are trading there. Okay, so we just tapped into this, and I at least the way I'm perceiving this right here is the sweep of the low. This is the luring in of momentum. So this is luring in sellers, the way we're breaking into this range right there. So this is more sellers coming in, and then I think we're just about ready to, if this plays out, then there looks like there's enough resistance that lures in sellers here, so that there's enough sellers that the market can then rip to the upside and absorb these orders over here. Yep, there we go. I'm actually going to keep this here. All right, so let's see if this is the lure for this to run, or if I'm just getting destroyed on this session. At the end of the day, they're 1R losses. Actually, it was a little. The other one was under 1R, but let's see, because this either will eat this up, and then this can actually finally do something, or just reapproach this later on. So let's see. And I'm getting more and more quality signs that Dow can run, because we're seeing NASDAQ just get obliterated, breaking through, and Dow is holding the line. It's holding it down. So this is a really good sign, because now, for example, if NQ keeps going higher, then we could see Dow also push to the upside. So our original idea, I guess in this example, it was a sign of, and I'm always open to critiquing myself, but this was the, break and retest, luring in sellers, and then it finally did. So had we waited for the original idea, we could have had at least a decent opportunity right there. And then now, though, let's see, is this going to hold up or not? Here, just so you guys can see it more clearly. All right, so now that, let's see, NQ has rebalanced decently, playing into earlier price action over here. Is this enough? Or is NASDAQ going to want to keep pushing down until it gets into some more key levels, key structures here? But yeah, these would have been much better entries, way better risk reward. Where did my chart go? All right, here we go. Let's see. All right. Dow duking it out here, fighting through. I wonder if we clear up here, like clearing these highs over here, this gives a lot more. And there's kind of multiple levels of liquidity that seems like there's enough incentive for Dow to go higher. Now, I don't trade just because there is liquidity here, and we just assume that, oh yeah, it's got to target this now. Doesn't always have to. Like the entry, your entry has to do less with the fact that there is liquidity, and more so, is there money coming into the market to push into that liquidity? I'm not loving the Dow opportunity as much anymore, just because it's not holding up as well as like right now we're seeing NASDAQ push, and it's not holding up. So this is like, I'm gonna give it the full structure here, in case it wants to just wick under here one more time and then make the move. But look at how now NQ is holding up in here. Liquidity. Usually not good signs. at least signs that the market could want to take this out first and then make a move. But the higher time frame is what looks good though. So the fact that Dow is holding up in here despite NASDAQ being already dipping below all of this as it was squeezing sideways. I think the only way, the only chance that there is that this could play out is if all Dow has left to do is to clear this little liquidity here, and it's just not a massive sell-off. It's just a tiny little push down, and then it makes the move. Otherwise, if the move is a little too deep, then it's gonna stop us out and then make it. So right now, all right, we just saw it clear here. Clear this little micro liquidity from the last few minutes, and then this is the deciding factor whether this is going to go in our favor or not. NQ is. NASDAQ is. Dow's chilling. Might not be our day today. Watch the stop loss hit, guys. Let's all be in it together. Fuck yeah. All right. Another L in the books. -2R on the day. So like I mentioned earlier, when we see this shift in price action back and forth, well, sometimes it's, Dow is more bullish, and then, actually NASDAQ is more bullish. And we're seeing this flip-flop. For me, this is usually where it takes a couple strikes to make a quality trade. And this one was a little bit more like we could have just had a better entry anyways. But now it's like, okay, well, now we're seeing Dow work its way down more. Could get into, could maybe work its way into more of this imbalance. While NASDAQ, now that it's swept liquidity, now NASDAQ, this looks like this takes the low, comes back in. So now that it clears liquidity, it worked its way down to here. So it's like everything looks like it could be some sort of liquidity capture, comes back in and then makes the move. So all of this becomes very much open to interpretation. And if you're not seeing the setups 100% clearly, then don't take the trade. If you've already lost once, if you've already lost twice, or maybe you won, maybe you shorted this and you're like, for example, like when we saw the market come into here, I was like, I wonder if this is going to want to short this imbalance and then come down. But when we're seeing setups like this, or markets like this, don't go and like try to make your money back right away just because you lost. Like, just wait for there to be a clear setup. So, for example, here, market sweeps liquidity, plays into here, comes immediately back up, right back down, right back up, right back down. So as much as it kind of feels like, maybe we should buy this, and maybe it'll finally, it'll come back up, I would want to have more demand up here. I would want to see the market like prove that it actually wants to trade higher and stay higher before it, any sort of buy positions or something, which right now don't have that type of conviction. This could just keep going lower and want to rebalance down here. And so what we've seen so far with NAS and Dow is it looks like it's gearing up for distribution. So if the market does keep trading down here, then this looks like it might be better positioned for shorts rather than just trying to keep buying at these, super high levels. So, which is like the most basic idea is just, buy at the low, sell at the highs. Banking on this being distribution is kind of what, or not distribution, reaccumulation is what so far caused these types of losses. So, for example, here when the market cleared the low, came back and traded over here, to me this looked like we were going to be able to hold up structure and get the position to the upside. Now, either way, we're only seeing a minus 2R scenario. Which isn't too bad. Or a little under, actually. But anyways, with that being said, like, cool. Like, we saw this go down again. Still, like, no demand. So sometimes what happens is, in these examples, the market is kind of like luring in sellers, clearing out buyers until it's completely decided, until enough liquidity has been brought into the market to absorb the orders for the market to go through. So here we had another push down, clear these lows. So either buyers are getting swept, and then, for example, same thing here. Only if we can see more demand appear, then okay, yeah, we could see a potential buy, like right here or something. But we need more of this, right? We need more confirmation. Otherwise, it could be the same thing. It just swipes the low, takes you out, makes the move. For example, here I've taken 2 shots at the market on Dow. Right now, basically both would be back at entry or in profit, but instead the wick down eats them both out. And then this actually just got below here again. So I'm chilling. I'm patient right now on these orders. Just see the market develop. Here we're seeing the break below. As you guys have seen time and time again, tons of support and resistance. Just key levels right here. This is where we're going to see, is there demand or not? Someone was asking me about, let's see. Was it USD CAD? So it tapped into here with yesterday on CFDs. We saw NZD reject, already mitigate that zone. GU has been pushing. Someone asked about Euro. I don't know what setup Euro you're seeing. I don't really see anything here. Looks more like consolidation in my opinion. So I wouldn't really trade anything in here. Australian, same thing, just sideways. So a lot of these are relatively sideways. USDJPY actually looks kind of interesting because here we saw a huge sweep up into these levels, mitigated here, instantly drops. We do get below over here. So I wonder how we trade. If we kind of if we actually work our way down and then we get here later, then I think I would like a setup there later on. All right, let's take a look at. So, okay. Dow again, or NASDAQ again, comes up, comes back down. So like, is this the proper buying scenario? Do we see enough demand over here? I still don't think so. I think we need, like, I need to see price trade here higher for longer, because otherwise, like, there's just the chance that this wants to go lower. Like, the market could, it easily could just want to trade back into London session areas. So only if we get, whoa, only if we get more movement would I do something here. So maybe some of you are taking this. It's just not really my setup yet. Outside of the majors, and we take a look at metals. Let's see what's for my gold traders. Saw the market work its way down, clear some of these lows, work its way back up. We trade over here for a few hours. We don't really get above this high very well, so we start seeing the market dip down relatively quickly. I'm not taking any positions. I kind of want to see more momentum to the upside, more demand up here before anything. Oil, unfortunately, didn't give us our entry, and then it did just absolutely, absolutely melt. Sheesh. Now looking at price now here, seeing the market clear these lows. We're pretty sideways. I don't really have any convicted setups here. There's really nothing that like I love per se here. Yeah, we clear the lows, we come back down, the market moves sideways, builds liquidity. We've been bearish, so unless we start clearing some of these highs and then we can confirm to like structure, I'm gonna keep it easy on the buys. Something like that maybe. But we'd have to wait on this. In relation to crypto, Bitcoin pumping, as mentioned, wasn't looking to short yesterday when someone had brought it up. They wanted to short in Bitcoin. For me, I think we were still building too much. Like, we weren't quite done. There was liquidity on a lot of ends here, and there still is. And I wasn't looking to short anything until we get a little bit further on, and we also had altcoins. So altcoins was what I was waiting for. What's that alert? Dow? MYMU. Okay, cool. Clears those lows. And then NQ is holding up. See now look at how NASDAQ now is trading up here. Comes down. It's trading here now. Starting to see more demand. So again, this could be a different opportunity. Price does not want to trade down here, but we need to see that there's actually buyers here. Otherwise, this is also could just be another trap. But with ETH didn't really work its way up to this level which is where Bitcoin's at. So what we're seeing is Bitcoin dominance is still ripping. Absolutely ripping. Bitcoin trading at 107, actually tapped 108. So Bitcoin dominance is super strong right now. So we're constantly seeing there's like a tug of war right now around this price, basically right under 42,500. And it's like, is the market actually bullish, or is this just luring in buyers to rip and come back down to this imbalances again? That's why I want to see more proof. Which is what we're starting to see, right? We're starting to actually trade sideways here. A dip down into these levels can then push this further out. Let's see. Outside of that, energy-wise, we'd be looking at some natural gas stuff. New contract, what, in a couple days? This one didn't really bounce at all. The short is going to look better at some point. And so with all these indices going crazy, let's look at stocks. What's taking the biggest hit, which is Tesla? Tesla huge dip today. Sheesh. Or yesterday. If you guys ever want to have volatility, Tesla's your friend right here. Look at this. For stock, the market just dipping 10% in 20 or 48 hours is pretty epic. So with the liquidity down here, I wouldn't be surprised if you can get lower, back under 270 in the future. The one thing that you can expect out of Tesla is volatility. So if you're dollar cost averaging, I think under 300 is good. Under 270 is better, but not guaranteed. So yeah, look, a lot of distribution starting to happen across the board. All right. So this, what we're seeing with NASDAQ, I like this now. Now I like the way in which we're trading. So if we were to get back down to like where we've seen demand in the past, buys here are starting to make way more sense, because now we're really starting to see the market do its thing. So when the market sold off here, came back up and came down, yes, here it did mitigate. And I think we can get another opportunity somewhere over here as well. So if you're someone that is okay with the risk and you're just trading your actual confirmations, then take your shot. But the thing is, you want to make sure that you've reset completely. You're coming from a neutral standpoint. You're not looking to make back anything you've lost. You're just trading. Like, you're just doing what your plan tells you to do. So that's the most important thing, in my opinion, is that you're able to do that and nothing else. So if you can do that and you know you're coming from the right place, then run it up, my friends. With that being said, remember, guys, today we have a couple calls that are open to everyone in the community. So first we're going to go over our traders retreat. We're going to show you guys. I know a lot of you have been asking for just a long time since the last one that we held in Puerto Rico. If you want to see what that's all about, there's a video on YouTube from the last one that we did. But there's going to be a call about the retreat today in the community. You can see it's on the schedule. So you can go here in the calendar. On the day, you'll see we have the Tradetopia retreat announcement. And then following that, we have the call, the crypto analysis later on. So 2 sessions for y'all today. Don't miss it. Is it at 7 or is it at 6? All right, you have it here at 7. So let me go ahead and change that here. So hop on, guys. Okay. Cool. So that's all set. We'll see you guys there. If you're going to take any positions, then make sure you're just doing them from the right place. So here you have it, guys. It looks to me like that while I literally changed my screen, we dipped down into the level that I was going to buy at. I love trading. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Everything you do moving forward, don't do it to get it back. Just do it because it's what you're supposed to do. All right, guys. Much love. Journal. I'm going to be journaling the losses, and I'm going to be dissecting them because that's how you get better and better. And you don't want to hide from mistakes or just